You may not feel it today, but each time you make this common mistake while masturbating after 60, you're silently damaging the very systems that keep your blood flowing and your relationships alive. My name is Dr. Mohit Kara. I'm a urologist and men's health expert with over 30 years of experience helping older adults regain confidence, intimacy, and optimal blood flow. I've studied thousands of cases, and there's a silent pattern I can no longer ignore. Most men think masturbation is harmless, or even healthy at any age. But after 60, one small habit can become a silent enemy, slowly choking circulation and eroding emotional connection in your relationship, without you even realizing it. In the next few minutes, I'll show you exactly what this mistake is, why it causes long-term damage, and how to reverse it safely and naturally, so you can restore vitality, intimacy, and control over your body. And near the end, I'll share a powerful yet simple change you can make tonight that could start improving your circulation and bedroom confidence within just 7 days. Before we continue, if you're finding this helpful, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and turn on the bell. That way, you'll never miss another health tip designed specifically for your stage of life. And if this message resonates with you, type 1 in the comments. If you'd like to see something different, type 0, and let me know how I can better support your health journey. Now that you understand how a seemingly harmless habit can quietly undermine your health, let's take a closer look at what actually happens inside your body after 60, and why the way you've been stimulating yourself may be doing more harm than good. Part 1. Why circulation and intimacy decline after 60, and what masturbation has to do with it. I've spent over 3 decades listening to older adults, men and women, share what they thought were unrelated issues: colder feet, a lack of desire, poor sleep, distant relationships, or just a vague sense that something's off. Many chalked it up to aging. And while aging is certainly part of the picture, it's not the whole story. What most people don't realize is that after 60, the body becomes more sensitive, not less. The systems that supported your youth, blood flow, hormones, and nerve function, begin to shift. They become more delicate, more reactive to small habits, especially the ones you repeat often and privately, like the way you masturbate. Now, this is a topic few people talk about past a certain age, but I believe we must, because it matters. When you masturbate using the same intense pressure or speed you used decades ago, your body responds differently. What once felt good now starts to create subtle harm: reduced blood flow, overworked nerves, and even tissue fatigue in areas already struggling to stay vital. You may not feel pain, but you may notice something softer, less sensation, weaker arousal, or less satisfaction overall. That's your body quietly signaling that it's overwhelmed, not nourished. The pelvic region, like your heart, thrives on healthy circulation, and too much friction, force, or disconnection from your emotions can slowly choke off that circulation without you ever realizing it. And this doesn't just stay physical. Many patients tell me their connection with their partners has faded, that the closeness they once had feels like a memory. They blame age, but often it's this quiet shift in how they interact with their own body that reflects outward into the relationship. I know it's uncomfortable to think about, but ignoring it has consequences. You deserve to feel alive, connected, and confident, not just sexually, but emotionally. The good news is, this damage is not permanent. There's a way back. Now here's where it gets really interesting, because the most dangerous damage isn't just to blood vessels or nerves, it's happening deep inside your brain. And it's changing your hormones in ways you'd never expect. If you're still here and this message is resonating with you, just type the number 1 in the comments so I know you're with me. Now, let's keep going and take a closer look at the second key insight. Part 2. What happens inside your body when you overstimulate alone. There's something most people never consider when they think about self-pleasure, especially later in life. It's not just about what's happening on the surface of your body, it's what's happening inside, in your blood chemistry, your nervous system, and your brain. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't always know how deeply it mattered, but after seeing patient after patient lose their energy, their interest in connection, and even their will to be intimate, I started looking closer. What I found changed how I practice medicine. When you overstimulate during masturbation, especially using high friction, strong grips, or powerful devices, you flood your brain with a burst of dopamine, that feel-good chemical tied to pleasure and reward, but what goes up must come down. And right after that dopamine spike, your body produces prolactin. It's the hormone that tells your system, we're done, cool down. In younger people, that hormonal dip is brief, but after 60, your body takes much longer to recover. And if you're repeating this overstimulation pattern a few times a week, you're sending your system into a constant up and down cycle. Over time, this wears out your ability to respond, not just physically, but emotionally too. Your testosterone can drop. Your nitric oxide, the molecule that keeps your blood vessels open, declines. And even oxytocin, the hormone that helps you feel bonded and close to others, can shrink. That means the very act that should bring pleasure ends up leaving you tired, unmotivated, and more isolated than before. This isn't just a theory. I've had patients come to me saying they feel numb inside, like they're disconnected from life. They don't realize their body has become addicted to intensity and is starving for balance. But here's the part that surprised even me. Once these patients started changing how they stimulated themselves and focused on restoring rhythm to their hormones and breath to their habits, many of them started feeling alive again, not just in the bedroom, but in their daily lives. And now, let me show you what few doctors ever mention: the emotional impact of these habits. Because while the body suffers in silence, the heart often breaks in ways no blood test can measure. Part 3. Emotional consequences. Few doctors talk about. I've always believed that behind every physical symptom, there's an emotional story waiting to be heard. And when it comes to intimacy, those stories run deep, especially after 60. The truth is, many of my patients don't come to me complaining about masturbation or hormones. They come because something feels missing, something they can't quite name, and more often than not, that something is connection, both with themselves and with the person they once held close. I remember one patient, a retired school principal in his early 70s. He said, "Doc, I don't feel like a man anymore. My wife and I don't touch like we used to. I go to bed next to her, but I feel alone." He wasn't ashamed of his body aging. What hurt was the distance growing between them, this quiet, emotional drift he didn't know how to fix. That's when I asked him how he'd been connecting with himself. He looked puzzled at first, but then admitted to using porn, often with headphones, in secret. He said it was easier than trying to start something with his wife, easier than risking rejection, easier than facing how awkward everything had become. And that's the emotional consequence no one wants to talk about. When self-pleasure becomes a place of escape instead of connection, it reinforces isolation. It creates a gap, not just in the bed, but in the heart. The more we retreat into private habits built on pressure and speed, the harder it becomes to open up, to reach out, to feel seen. This isn't about shame, it's about awareness. The way we relate to our own bodies reflects how we relate to others, and if that relationship is rushed, hidden, or disconnected, it's only natural that our emotional world starts to feel the same. But there is a way to rebuild. Not by giving things up, but by reshaping how we engage with pleasure and closeness. I've seen it happen. I've helped guide it. And in the next part, I'll show you how to start that shift with 3 specific steps: simple, natural, and powerful, that can help reignite not just your blood flow, but your sense of aliveness. If you're still with me and finding this information meaningful, go ahead and type the number 1 in the comments. I'd love to know you're here. Now, let's continue with the 4th key insight. Part 4. The 3-step fix. A new approach to self-stimulation. After 60. Over the years, I've had the privilege of sitting across from many men and women in their 60s, 70s, even 80s, who quietly ask the same thing. Is there anything I can do to feel close again? To feel alive again? And I always tell them, yes, there absolutely is. But it starts with how you treat your body when no one else is around. Healing doesn't come from guilt or giving things up. It comes from changing how we engage, with more intention, more gentleness, and more respect for the stage of life we're in. I've developed a simple 3-step approach that has helped many of my patients reconnect with themselves and their partners, both physically and emotionally. The first step is what I call the feather touch. After 60, the body needs lighter, slower stimulation. The goal is no longer to chase a quick release, but to reawaken sensitivity. Use a soft touch, warm lubrication, and allow the body time to respond naturally. This trains your nervous system to feel again, not force sensation through pressure. The second step is the 3-day reset. For 72 hours, pause all stimulation. No porn, no masturbation. Let your hormones reset. Let your mind and body rest. Most people report sleeping better, thinking clearer, and even noticing stronger natural arousal after just a few days. And finally, the third step is reconnection. If you have a partner, try gentle, non-sexual touch, just holding each other again. If you're on your own, practice self-connection without stimulation. Just sit with your body, breathe deeply, and notice what emotions come up. This isn't just about sex, it's about rebuilding trust with your body and creating space for intimacy again. I've seen these small changes create big results. One man told me after a week of slowing down, he felt more sensation in his hands, more energy in the morning, and, most importantly, he felt like himself again. But there's another layer we haven't touched yet, the warning signs, because for many people, the damage is already happening. And the body is quietly sounding the alarm. The question is, are you listening? Part 5. Warning signs your circulation is suffering. There's something deeply humbling about watching the body speak, especially when it whispers before it screams. In my practice, I've seen time and time again that the body almost always gives us signals when something's wrong. The trouble is, most of us don't know how to listen. Or worse, we're taught to ignore the signs until they become too loud to bear. Poor circulation isn't just a concern for your heart. It affects every part of your life, from how your brain functions, to how your limbs feel, to how your body responds to intimacy. And when it comes to the subtle effects of overstimulation or unhealthy sexual habits after 60, those signs can be even harder to recognize. One of the most common complaints I hear is fatigue. Not just tiredness, but a kind of deep, dragging exhaustion that makes even getting out of bed feel heavier than it should. That, for many, is the first clue. Others describe their hands or feet feeling cold more often, even in warm weather. That's a sign your blood isn't moving as freely as it used to. Then there are the more intimate signs: less sensation during touch, trouble maintaining an erection, fewer morning erections, or a sense that your body is slower to respond. These aren't just symptoms of aging. They're your body waving a quiet flag, asking for attention. Some patients tell me their skin feels different, thinner, drier, or more sensitive to pressure. Others experience numbness in their fingers or toes, or even tingling in the legs when they sit for too long. And what's heartbreaking is how many people think all of this is normal. It's not. It's common, yes, but normal? Not at all. One man, a 68-year-old veteran, sat across from me and said, "I just thought I was getting old. I didn't know my body was struggling to keep up because of how I'd been treating it." He'd been using a tight grip and intense stimulation several times a week, thinking it was harmless. Once we changed his routine, his circulation improved, and so did his mood, clarity, and connection with his partner. He told me, "I didn't realize how numb I had become, physically and emotionally, until I started to feel again." If any of this sounds familiar, if you've noticed these quiet changes in your own body, don't ignore them. They're not signs of weakness, they're messages. Your body wants balance, it wants to heal, and it's capable of doing exactly that when given the right care. But here's what truly surprised me over the years. Many of these warning signs weren't just physical, they were signs that something much deeper was out of alignment. And in our final step, I'll show you why this journey isn't just about fixing the body. It's about reconnecting with something far more powerful: your sense of purpose, closeness, and self-worth. Why this matters. More than just sex. I've had the honor of sitting across from thousands of patients in my career, men and women, many in their 60s, 70s, even 80s, each carrying their own private questions about health, aging, and intimacy. Often, what begins as a conversation about energy or performance slowly opens into something far more human, a quiet kind of grief, a sense of loss, a wondering, is this just how it ends for me? And I want to say this clearly, no, it doesn't have to end that way. The truth is, what we've been talking about isn't just about masturbation. It's not just about circulation or hormones or sexual function. It's about something far deeper, how we choose to treat our bodies, how we stay connected to others, and how we hold on to our sense of self-worth as the years pass. We started by looking at how aging changes the way your body responds to stimulation, how the habits that felt harmless or even healthy when you were younger can begin to quietly erode your blood flow, nerve sensitivity, and emotional intimacy after 60. Then we explored what overstimulation really does inside your body, not just on the surface, but deep in your brain, where it creates a hormonal imbalance that dulls your desire, flattens your mood, and weakens your natural drive to connect. You may not have realized it, but that tiredness, that fog, that fading excitement in life, it might not be just getting old. It could be your body's way of crying out for balance. We then moved into the emotional space, the part that most doctors avoid, because there's a quiet kind of heartbreak that happens when intimacy fades, when closeness is replaced with silence, when the simple act of touch feels foreign or forgotten. And the truth is, the way we relate to ourselves when no one's looking shapes the way we show up for others. Masturbation done in isolation, with urgency or guilt, can slowly create emotional distance that becomes harder and harder to bridge. But I didn't want to leave you there. That's why I shared the 3-step fix. Gentle changes, slower touch, a 3-day reset to let your body breathe, and most importantly, a path back to connection, whether with a partner or with yourself. These small shifts create real change. I've seen men walk into my office slumped and silent, and return weeks later standing taller, feeling more alive. I've had women tell me they thought they'd lost all desire, only to rediscover it when they finally let go of the pressure and began treating their bodies with kindness again. Then we talked about the warning signs, the quiet indicators that your circulation and intimacy may already be suffering. Cold hands, numbness, less sensation, a shrinking desire to be close. These are not small things. They are the body's way of reaching out. They deserve to be heard, and the sooner you notice them, the sooner you can act. So why does all of this matter? Because intimacy, true intimacy, is about more than just sex. It's about feeling present in your own skin. It's about the energy to laugh again, to wake up with purpose, to feel your heartbeat when you reach for someone you love. It's about staying connected, not just to others, but to yourself. I've watched too many people give up on this part of life, thinking it's too late, thinking the window has closed. But I promise you, it hasn't. I've seen reconnection happen at 65, at 72, even at 85. And it always starts with the same decision, to stop ignoring the signals and to start showing your body the care it's been asking for. So, if any part of this message has spoken to you, if something in your gut is saying, "This is me," I invite you to take one small step tonight. Slow down, breathe, touch with care. Choose connection over escape, because when you do, you're not just improving circulation, you're reclaiming something essential, something sacred, your right to feel, your right to connect, your right to live fully, no matter your age. And that's something worth fighting for. If this message spoke to you or made you see things a little differently, please consider giving it a like, sharing it with someone who might need to hear it, and leaving a comment below. I read every word, and your thoughts truly matter. This conversation is too important to stay silent. Let's keep it going, together.